We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 330. I'm a man behind a microphone and your Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. I am Scholar Jeff, joined by the one and only, the undisputed scholar himself, Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how is your evening going, sir?
My evening is going very tiresome. And I'm actually kind of disappointed in you, fool. I feel like you should have had more energy introducing yourself as the new Scholars of Wrestling Heavyweight Champion of the World, Scholar Jeff. Something like that.
And infringe on your gimmick, sir? I don't think so. I am not that kind of a champion. Speaking of not being that kind of a champion, also joining us this week, the one and only, the always effervescent Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Actually, not that bad.
I was expecting it to be like your former Scholars of Wrestling, just to add even more salt to that wound. Speaking of,
again, not the kind of champion I am.
There is no salt in the wound. It's okay. Look, we need to remember, Tarek, we need to remember who we're dealing with here. Okay, he's the champion for right now. When in fact he does defend again, you know how he predicts. Okay. Oh. He has one show a year where everything he predicts he gets right. Which is what happened. He's flamed out. It's done. The next time he defends the title,
you really got to give him credit for this one. This
one just
like the one time like he was throwing crazy predictions. Actually, you know what? It really wasn't that crazy.
It was not crazy if it works.
No, it's not. Not even just if it works. It's in the long run. It like, you know what? When I for example, when I predicted the Shayna Nia versus Sasha, I think every time I predicted, I've noticed that I've just been predicting against Nia and Shayna. It's pretty much it's the anti Jeff predicting Lacey every time. I predict against Nia and Shayna every time.
Yeah, the reason that I predicted that was because there's precedent for when you're about to go into a big championship feud and you have the two people teaming up to go for the tag team championships. There's precedent for that to be the reason why someone turns bad to start that feud. So I was like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, nothing that Jeff really predicted was out there in the moment
compared to other there predictions he's had in the past.
Yeah, in the moment when you're watching it, you're like, oh, why would you do that? What are you doing? But when you actually think about it, at the end of the day, it's like, and when you realize what's coming from all those decisions, you're like, okay, it makes sense.
Well, yeah, and it's also Bobby Lashley in the title picture. What more can I ask for?
And you know what?
Cesaro in the title picture.
You also, you know why I'm also not mad? Because the person who isn't here tonight isn't the one who beat me.
See, always a silver lining. Always a silver lining.
He predicted the exact same thing you did. So no matter what, he wasn't going to be champion.
Because
sorry, Charlie, but you went every prediction that Bryant went. So essentially you were like, either he's going to be the champion and you just tie with him.
Except for when everybody went with Ricochet and I went with John Morrison. I thought as soon as that prediction hit, I'm like, I'm golden. Well, it turns out I was wrong, wasn't I?
All the gold is right here, right where it deserves to be. But then again,
I thought you weren't that kind of champion.
Maybe it's just this belt. This belt, when it gets on your shoulder, on your waist, wherever it is, it does something to you.
It's intoxicating.
Yes.
And I'll tell you for me, it'll be coming home soon enough.
Oh. soon, maybe sooner than we all think. Because in an effort to see this belt done justice, so that its amazing power does not corrupt me absolutely, I've got a deal for you all. Next week, I believe we've got AEW Revolution on the docket, don't we?
We do.
So, in effort to not be that champion for much longer, or at least a different type of champion, to cultivate the evolution of the championship, if you will, I'm going to make you all fight for me. I'm going to make you all compete for a number one contendership title shot to be executed at Fastlane. So I'm just going to be competing for points. The rest of you are going to have to dance for my amusement, fight for it. Number one contendership. Whoever wins the prediction show that night will, in 2 weeks from then, during the WWE Fastlane prediction show, will be able to challenge me directly for this lovely belt.
Question.
Answer.
Tie.
Well, we'll see what kind of mood I'm in when that happens.
No,
if that happens.
No, there is no mood. You know how ties work.
How do refresh my memory? How do you think ties work?
No, if there's a tie, I'll put
Are you saying triple threat?
triple threat. Yep.
Or fatal four-way if it was a three-way tie.
I don't think we could pull that off.
Nah.
No
No,
one's
with
seen
an
how
eight.
Charlie's been predicting this year. He's going to make sure he has the exact same predictions as you, Brian. Just to make sure he's like, if Brian wins and he's in the title match, I'm in the title match too. I will always be going against Brian. That's Charlie's frame of mind.
Because I'm the best. But I'll tell you what, a house divided itself against itself cannot stand. So if you really want to try some shenanigans, instead of doing things the respectable way, the way a champion of the Scholars of Wrestling show deserves to defend their title and go for their titles and win their titles, then you can go head on. Meanwhile, I'm just going to be watching all the carnage as I hold Big Gold right where she belongs. But before we get to the aforementioned fallout from Elimination Chamber and how I got this lovely championship belt in my possession, we have to kick things off on the Scholars of Wrestling show the right way, because there's a lot to talk about in a little segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go ahead and peek behind that curtain as we always do to check in on a little
Backstage new champion, man.
I like the way you transitioned to that. I dig it.
In more ways than one, there are new champions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, this has been a week full of ups and downs as far as wrestling news is concerned, but the biggest note by far, as we've talked about it, and pun fully intended, by the way, is, well, it's the Big Show going to AEW. Apparently, as an announcer and wrestler, that's right, Paul Wight is now a full-time employee of AEW, and I think the internet collectively exploded. I don't know what else.
He should have joined AEW weeks ago, just so his appearance on Go Big Show would make more sense.
This really came out of nowhere, but there were inklings of it about 3 to 4 hours before AEW actually announced it on Twitter, because WWE moved Big Show to the alumni section about 3 or 4 hours before it was announced on Twitter that he signed with AEW. And people were trying to figure it out, like, what's going on? Did he retire? Did his contract expire? What's happening? And then AEW posted that on Twitter, and the internet collectively broke. Like, what? What just happened? If anybody was gonna be a WWE lifer, I thought it was gonna be that guy.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, you're not wrong at all. As far as WWE lifers go, I had the thought in my mind, like that's like Mark Henry going to AEW. Like there's some people that you don't see happening, and Big Show is absolutely one of them.
But when you actually read
Why? Yeah.
why,
Mm-hmm.
it does make a lot of sense. Okay, he was not happy with that Legends Night appearance,
I don't blame him.
which turns out to be his last appearance. He was pissed off. And then they bought him a new contract to sign. And it wasn't quite like the Dean Ambrose situation because he actually took it, read it, and all that. But it just like, if you're going to punk me out like that at Legends Night, and then you're going to bring me a contract that isn't what I believe that I'm worth, then yeah, I'm gone. I'm gone. And when it comes out that he actually think that AEW is the better product right now, he actually came out and said that while he was in the WWE.
Yeah, I guess we should have known that he had one foot out the door even then.
So it's like, once again, in the moment, you are shocked. You are completely shocked because the one of the guys who you thought was WWE for life just technically jumped ship. Okay, but when you actually read into it further, like, this has been brewing for a little while now.
It's just after you're reading it, you're just like, yeah, you know what? It's not surprising because it's just more typical WWE having their talent be unhappy and just them completely screwing it up. It's just more backstage BS on WWE's part that just is once again angering their talent and pushing them away.
And it's a big get for AEW because he is one of the best big men to ever do it.
Mm-hmm.
So all the big men you've got in AEW right now have someone who's been doing it for 30 years
Mm-hmm.
now, who they can bounce ideas off of, and someone who can show them how it's done. Just like you now have an experienced big man. Like, a lot of these big guys that they have now are just getting their feet wet. This is like their first big job. Okay, so now you have a guy who's been doing it for 30 years, can show them the ropes, can show them how to do it, and then when it's time, actually put them over in the ring, because that's what he's here for. Okay, he's going to commentate, and he's going to put big guys over.
And apparently some chance of some smaller guys, because apparently, I'm not sure if you saw this, but apparently Marco Stunt, of all people, is a huge Big Show fan.
He ain't
So
put Marco Stunt over. He ain't put Marco Stunt over.
I'm not talking about him putting over Marco Stunt. I'm just
putting over Orange Cassidy.
Well, Orange Cassidy is not Marco Stunt. I think we can all agree on that.
Marco Stunt is going to get eaten by the Big Show, and Marco Stunt is going to love every minute of it. That's it.
This took a very odd turn, but either way, I guess we can close this portion of it with a Scholar's Quick Talk. Top of your head, excluding someone like Orange Cassidy or Marco Stunt, what's another dream match that you have for Paul Wight in AEW?
Lance Archer.
Okay.
Will Hobbs, Brian Cage.
Brian Cage, yeah.
As
Brian
I said,
Cage.
every big man that you've got in AEW, dream match.
And the part of me just wants to see him knock out MJF.
That's likely going to happen eventually.
Yeah,
I want the return of Jericho, damn it.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Big Show to Inner Circle.
Yeah, why not?
Stranger things have happened.
Jericho against the Inner Circle when they kick him out.
Well, regardless of what is going to happen in Big Show's future, or Paul Wight, or whatever else he wants to call himself, we're excited for this new chapter in his life, this new chapter in the world of professional wrestling as a fan, and we look forward to what's happening next. Unfortunately, not all the news we got this week was good from the world of wrestling. I'm sure you saw as well, one Joseph Hudson, better known to NWA fans as both the Question Mark and Josephus, passed away unexpectedly from a, as of yet, undisclosed medical condition. It's been really eye-opening to see some of the reactions to this. The first time I heard about it was from our man Aaron Stevens, the former Damian Sandow, talking about his friend and what it meant to him to work with him, to really get his character and time over in NWA during his run. It was just heartbreaking to see, and really I saw how crazy over the Question Mark was, and how unique the gimmick was, and how it really carved out a niche for the modern NWA. It seemed like something was really lost that day. Tell me about your experience. Fool, you said that you first heard about it from Damian Sandow / Aaron Stevens as well, like I did.
That's all I actually ever heard of him, to be perfectly honest. Just through that, and just how much his friendship with Damian Sandow was, like their friendship were with each other. That honestly, I haven't heard. I've never heard of him until this. So I honestly don't have anything more to say other than it's just a sad loss, and hopefully now he can rest in peace.
And you, Scholar Brian, did you again, we all have our ties specifically through Aaron Stevens these days, but what did you see out of the Question Mark, Josephus, whatever you want to call him, and I mean, reaction to the news?
I didn't know the man behind the mask. Okay, but I watched a lot of NWA when it came back on the YouTube, and Question Mark was huge. Okay, Question Mark was quite possibly more over in that company than the NWA champion. He was quite possibly the most over guy in the company. Like, the crowd loved it. Okay, and just, I never knew who it was behind the mask and all that. So when everybody starts coming out over the weekend and saying Joseph Hudson, that was his name, right?
Joseph Hudson, yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, Joseph Hudson passed away. I'm like, okay, who's that? It's sad because he's young, and he's youngish, and it's another undisclosed medical condition. Been getting a lot of those recently, so it's a sad loss. Who is it? And then someone said it's the Question Mark, and I'm like, oh shit! Like, he found a gimmick that in most circles would not work. at all. Okay. And he found the avenue to make it work. Okay. And then when you hear all the tributes coming out on Twitter, it's another one of those, like, I don't know the guy, but he apparently helped out a lot of the wrestlers that I know and watch today. Help them be able to get as good as they are today. And we're losing a bunch of those people in very short order these days. So pour one out, another one down. Just rest in peace, and prayers go out to the family and friends of Joseph Hudson, who was apparently a bigger loss than any of us actually knew.
Yeah, on the bright side of all this, if there's any consolation at all, I'm not sure if you saw it, but there was a GoFundMe that was put up not long after he passed to help pay for funeral expenses. And they not only met their goal in a matter of hours, but they also exceeded it. And all the proceeds after that are going to be going to a scholarship fund for his 10-year-old son. So kudos to him. At least there's some of that, and all the best to him and his family.
And that by itself should tell you all you need to know about what his fans and friends thought about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Josephus ? Joseph Hudson, for everything you are and have left behind, thank you so much, and God rest your soul and Godspeed. In the meantime, though, what do you say we kick off the rest of this show and get to the fallout from Elimination Chamber proper, starting with the elephant in the room, where I was actually wrong about something. No Raw Women's title match. Turns out, yeah, Lacey Evans versus Asuka was indeed called. Lacey Evans is apparently indeed pregnant, and a common prediction.
She finally confirmed it yesterday. Like, legitimately herself confirmed it yesterday that she is indeed pregnant. And
I saw on the American Brain and Brawn podcast. Yes.
Yeah, and WWE is doing the smart thing and apparently just dropping the whole storyline that didn't make any sense to begin with. But
well, yeah, with that Charlotte Ric Flair backstage segment, that essentially
that basically was a retcon of the highest order that happened on Monday. Like, they forgot all about that and just went back to what it should have been in the first place. Just Charlotte trying to get out from under the shadow of her father being Ric Flair. That's your story. That's as far as it needed to go. It didn't need to go into the...
She'll still keep going with the woos and the finger four leg locks, but yeah, it's trying to get out of Ric Flair's shadow.
Yeah, you didn't... Lacey Evans could have still been involved, but you didn't need to go as far into it as they did. That was out of control. But like, you could still have the Lacey Evans being tutored by Ric Flair. You didn't need to go as far into it as you did. But I'm not certain if I'm okay with Asuka not even having a presence on the show because of it. You know what I mean? Because
it looks like they're just prepping for Asuka and Charlotte at Fastlane, just so Charlotte can have the belt and possibly go with Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte at Mania as Rhea Ripley's redemption to last year's WrestleMania.
I think that they're setting up for Asuka versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. I don't think they're going to do it at Fastlane. But that the at least have something. have something to continue the Charlotte and Ric Flair story?
They're not.
No, I mean on the show, on Elimination Chamber. Not now, whatever. But on the show, when just have something. Okay, don't just like they didn't even announce that it was called off. They just didn't do it. That's it. I'm like, it's like that whole situation from the Royal Rumble when remember Big Mike but what about the women's title match? That's it.
Yeah, there seemed to be something unceremonious about the whole situation. Like again, like you mentioned, Rhea Ripley's involvement. The common guess was that it was likely that she was going to show up and challenge Asuka right then and there, but nope. Just the next day on Monday Night Raw. Oh yeah, Rhea Ripley's coming to Raw. Like, okay,
soon.
Yeah, and just just give us something. Just like the match was canceled because Lacey Evans was pregnant. Okay, you didn't even say that. There was just nothing. That's my problem with it. It's the same thing with they do this all the time with the women. They just don't give you a reason why matches that are announced aren't on the show. They just don't do it. And then you just after the show, you're just like, yeah, everything else was good, but where was that? What happened to that? That's it.
Yeah, this entire show, it seemed like there was something a little bit off with it for most of it. Some for good, some for bad. One of which in particular seemed to go in your favor, Brian, with the opening match on the pre-show, the qualifier match. We got your pick, John Morrison, out of nowhere, defeating Elias, Mustafa Ali, and Ricochet. Not bad for a prediction you just threw out there on the final hour.
Here's the deal. Okay, as much as everybody wants Ricochet to do something, they're not going to pull the trigger. It's not going to happen. Okay, there were two choices here. There were two logical choices to win this match: Morrison and Ali, because they're the only ones actually doing something on TV.
I only picked Ricochet because I know he's one of the small guys for Bobby Lashley to throw across the ring. That was my logic. I didn't think there's like, oh, this is going to be something big for Ricochet. No, it's just more, oh, you're a tiny man. I'm going to throw you like a rag doll because Vince McMahon loves big men.
And here's my and my thing is, I know that as a singles competitor, quite honestly, as a singles competitor, I think John Morrison is the best one who is in that ring. If you let him go, if you let him go, and it's not in a tag team match, and it's not with The Miz, if you let him go on his own in a singles match, he's the best person in that ring at all times. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Because I'm like, at the time, I was like, Ali's going to do something with Kofi in the chamber. That didn't happen, but whatever. Everyone else has got these plans. They're not going to do anything with Ricochet because Vince McMahon doesn't like Ricochet. So take him out. Elias really had no business being in there to begin with.
And the fact that Elias is awesome.
And so what comes down to it, to me, was the most logical choice for John Morrison to win, and could have done without it being a roll-up to do it. But other than that, the match itself was great. And John Morrison proved that once again, if you put him, John Morrison and The Miz as singles competitors are better than they are when they're in the tag team. Boom, I said it.
Well, with that kind of performance, you're not exactly wrong. Hey, I know that there was some mixed reactions when John Morrison first came back, but hey, if he keeps performing like this, I'd say he's in good shape. Particularly now that Taya Valkyrie, his wife, has finally joined WWE.
And I think at this point they're gonna start a slow split. Because it's like they get into that later. But just I feel like it's run its course. You know what I mean? And the only reason there was mixed reactions when John Morrison came back is you knew what they were gonna do. You knew
True
that
enough.
he was gonna get. You knew that he wasn't gonna get the singles push. You knew that they were gonna throw him back in the tag team with The Miz, and that's what happened. And it's been mixed reviews since then. But whenever he's been in the ring by himself, that ladder match at WrestleMania, holy shit!
Mhm.
And every time he's in the ring in a singles match, the match is awesome. So give him a run, man. Give him a run. Let him show you what he can actually do. Let him show you why he was the Impact champion. Let him show you why he was the best thing that came out of Lucha Underground.
I'm going to bite my tongue on that, but I see your point anyway. But then again, bringing it all to the Elimination Chamber itself, the first of two, we got, as much as we were all pulling for Cesaro, we got Daniel Bryan instead. Again, not a bad pick at all, but the inevitable result still happened. We still got a vicious, epic beatdown from Roman Reigns all the same. Thoughts on the end of the match flow, and the fate of our boy Cesaro?
I enjoyed this. This was good all the way around. And if Cesaro wasn't going to win the thing, okay, he had the best showing in it, and the winner that they chose wasn't a bad trade-off. So it's like, and what's gonna happen with Cesaro now isn't a bad trade-off either. Okay, he's still gonna get his one-on-one WrestleMania match. Just seems like it's gonna be Seth Rollins at this point. And what's wrong with that? That's it.
He certainly seems to be building him up to the right track. But Fool, I'm really eager to hear what your thoughts on this. How did your guy perform?
Exactly how I thought he was going to perform. Beautifully. It was when it comes to both Elimination Chamber matches, both matches delivered. I thought this one was definitely. I definitely felt more of the wrestling over story on this one, and I'm not saying it is a bad thing. This match truly did deliver. And like I said, both chambers truly delivered. But yeah, it's actually not that shocking when you really think about it in the long run that Daniel Bryan is going to be the one going after Roman Reigns. Yeah, Cesaro put on a great show as I'm not surprised at all. And now him feuding against basically one of the top people of WWE and Seth Rollins. I'm perfectly fine with that. Keep it going.
And he's gonna, and it's all gonna be leading up to a big singles match win at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
So, boom, yeah, he doesn't get the filler title feud that we all know he's gonna lose.
Now just give him the Intercontinental Championship, and I'll be on cloud 9.
Yeah, it's like at this point, you know that Daniel Bryan is going to lose to Roman Reigns at Fastlane. So it's like, if you're trying to build someone up, like obviously they're trying to build Cesaro up right now, Why would you put him in a filler title feud where you know the guy's going to lose? Instead, build him up, give him a secondary major singles match at WrestleMania. That's how Kevin Owens got to the spot he was this year, where he was that guy who fought Roman Reigns for 4 months. He fought Seth Rollins at WrestleMania last year. So obviously they think big about Cesaro for the coming year because they're giving him Seth Rollins, who is one of their top media guys, whether we like him on socials or not. He's one of their top media guys. So they're giving Cesaro the ball here. And they're like, run with it. Okay. And based off of the last month or so, he's running with it.
Oh yes, he absolutely is. And I think it's really encouraging to see. Again, I can only imagine what state of mind you're in tonight, Fool, seeing what's happening now. But it seemed like he wasn't the only beneficiary of a fresh new push. I'm speaking specifically of the man who I believe ended up bringing me the Scholars of Wrestling Championship. I'm talking about the new U.S. champion, Riddle. I was a little surprised myself that this went down, but after seeing what Bobby Lashley got himself up to, then hey, it makes all the sense in the world. It's too bad I'm the only one who saw it.
The United States title was holding him back. They were going off that he was frustrated about losing the United States Championship later in the night. For me, it was more like, okay, now he has that United States Championship off his waist, so now he can go to a 10 times better place where he deserves to be, and that is the WWE Championship picture.
So, yeah, I think this is less of a push about Riddle and more of a push about Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here's as we said, the Hurt Business is the best thing going on Raw right now. Best thing. So why would you not have that in the world title picture or universal title picture, whichever? Why would you not have that as your top story going into your biggest show of the year? It just so happens that Riddle was the beneficiary of Lashley getting moonshotted up into that role where he's probably going to win the title next week. So should have really thought about that. But I never actually thought they were going to pull the trigger on Miz cashing in Money in the Bank, so that's on me. But when you think about it after the fact, after the show's over, and you see everything that's going on, and you see how Lashley at the end of the show did it, what he did at the end of the show, this result makes all the sense in the world. And they gave it to the right guy. Morrison wasn't the right one to take it. If you're gonna do it, do it to the guy who took the Hurt Lock for 6 weeks in a row.
And now we're actually going to get legit United States title matches other than just people for Lashley to feed on. We're actually now going to get legit matches with Riddle as champion.
Yeah, just look at the non-title match he had with my boy Morrison on Raw.
Exactly.
So good stuff all around once again. And that brings us to our next match. For the women's tag titles, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defended against Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks with some shenanigans thrown in.
Fucking Reginald.
The match that won you the title, fool.
It was the latest, but I still get the vibe that Riddle was.
No, it was the one.
It was
It
this
was the
match that
one.
solidified.
Whatever
your
you
title.
say, whatever you all say. This
No, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm just saying this was the
I
match
know,
that
I know.
confirmed your title. That confirmed your title victory.
I don't know. I just feel like at least this may indeed have been the one that solidified it in terms of chronology. I just feel like Riddle was like the least popular of all the deciding factors that of all the deciding predictions that were made, if that makes sense. Again, technically you're right. Nia and Shayna were the latest to actually confirm my victory. But again, as I was at that point, I was just glad that I was right.
It was a match.
It sure
happened.
was a match, wasn't it?
It happened. It was there. Now
It-
we know that Naomi and Lana are your next tag team champions. They can say that that Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez have a shot, but I mean, Naomi and Lana, didn't they win a number one contenders match?
I don't know, and I honestly don't care.
I don't know.
Honestly,
All I
just-
remember is that it seemed like whoever the popular thought at the time seemed to be from us that whoever won the women's Dusty Cup would end up winning the women's tag titles. So
I'm still convinced on that.
okay.
Yeah, that's my hope. I'm hoping that they don't go the route that they have Shayna and Nia win and go for Naomi and Lana to dethrone them. What I want is to Raquel Gonzalez to keep being a fucking beast.
I just want, since there actually are more women's tag team in NXT, and the ones that actually we know can put on actual, and good women's tag team title matches. I'm hoping that that's where the women's tag team titles should go. The NXT go to NXT of all people, have the first NXT women's tag team champions, and it'll just be more better exposure for that brand if an NXT team wins those tag titles. And hell, 10 times it's better than random Naomi and Lana tag team. Hell, even if you want to have that tag team title match, I'm now at that point where I'm tired of Nia and Shayna. It's even like when they're on the Go Home show, when they were showing up on the whatever the hell Bailey's new talk show is.
Ding dong, hello.
Okay. It's reached that point where Shayna and I I'm done with them as a team. Shayna needs to be by herself to be back as that dominant force when she first came in, taking a bite out of Becky Lynch and all that crazy shit. So, and oh God, I'm so goddamn tired of Nia Jax. Am I the only one that just sees her leg drop and just think, wow, that is just bad?
I
leg drops
am not the biggest fan of Nia Jax. No.
She's terrible on the mic. Her promos are terrible. You can tell she's not into it, especially on that Ding Dong Hello segment. It felt forced. I felt like she didn't want to be there, and her wrestling shows that she doesn't want to be there either. And it's just at that point where it's completely ridiculous. I'm done with Nia Jax. I'm done with Shayna Baszler being her tag team partner and basically being her second. She shouldn't be her second. No one should be second to Nia Jax.
I think that's one thing we can all agree on. But conversely, at the end of the night, we still ultimately got a great spectacle to close the show where Drew McIntyre, of course, as we all predicted, would end up defending his title in the Elimination Chamber. The one thing we didn't predict was that this would be the time when Miz actually get the cashing in after a run-in from Bobby Lashley. Wow, this went from 0 to 60 pretty fast.
And everyone was like, it's so unpredictable. I'm like, I knew from the moment you saw in the back that MVP was talking to the Miz. I'm like, oh shit, they're actually gonna do it. They're actually gonna do it. And
I'm more
everything that
surprised.
happened in the United States title match just clicked in my head, and it all makes complete sense now.
It
And as
honestly
soon as
felt
Drew
more.
McIntyre beat AJ Styles and started celebrating, and they hadn't put up the copyright sign yet, I'm like, wait for it. Boom! Here comes Bobby Lashley to beat the shit out of Drew McIntyre.
When you think about it in the long run, it just makes complete sense
Oh yeah,
for them to have Miz cash in, because it's now at that point where when you think about WrestleMania, you don't want to think about and the title pictures, you don't want to think about the fact that Miz could still cash in at any point. This is their way of just now getting rid of the Money in the Bank, even though they probably should have just kept the Money of the Bank contract off Miz when they first had him cash in and failed. But, you know, apparently they wanted to keep the briefcase on Miz. Twist. Okay. If anything, this is just a transitional period to give Bobby Lashley the title. I'm perfectly fine with that. Let Bobby Lashley completely destroy the Miz. Okay, like this is their way of just giving the Miz. Okay, you pretty much had. I'm not even pretty much. You had the worst storyline this year. You had the worst booking this past year with that briefcase. Here's your reward. Now, good luck when you're about to get just completely destroyed by Lashley.
here's your reward for not bitching about everything that we made you do for the last 6 months. Here's your reward. Enjoy it for the 2 weeks that you're gonna have it, and then we're gonna move on. That like now is the perfect time for Bobby Lashley to get the title. Okay, if you had done it during the first feud that Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre had, it wouldn't have worked because
This is the perfect time.
you hadn't built up the Hurt Business enough. You hadn't built up Bobby Lashley as his badass enough. Okay, but now you've ever since that feud has ended, Bobby Lashley has been unstoppable for the last how long has it been? 7 months now,
I don't know, but it's
probably
most
since
likely.
June, I'm guessing. So
There wasn't
yeah,
even a Hurt
so
Business
and
with
he's
the first
been
title feud. It was
he,
just MVP and Lashley and Lana as the third wheel. That was ruining everything. And then they finally dropped that stupid angle, and then they got Benjamin and then Cedric Alexander.
yeah,
The Hurt Business was built beautifully, and now
yeah,
this is
and
like the perfect time. We're saying this is the perfect time for WWE to pull the trigger on Bobby Lashley winning the WWE Championship, which I am all for. But we got to remember this is the WWE and their stupid ass booking. They hinted at something where after Miz tried to weasel his way out of it, he got on the phone. So they probably plant something there for next week for him to keep the title. And if it's for Bobby Lashley to win the title at Fastlane, it's like it's stupid to not pull the trigger, have this be a big moment, but it's also understandable because it's their first event under the Peacock network. So it makes sense, but it's a stupid. It makes sense, but it's also stupid because just
Bobby Lashley should never be losing to the Miz.
exactly. Even if it is by some sort of disqualification or shenanigans, that's going to happen Monday with Miz getting on the phone to
If
whoever.
Miz got on the phone, it better be to Brock Lesnar because anybody else taking out Bobby Lashley makes no sense. and then Brock Lesnar actually talking to the Miz on the phone makes no sense either. So that's
Hell, just this past week, just showing how much Lashley destroyed Braun Strowman was awesome. I loved every second of it. I love every second of Bobby Lashley on screen now. No more look at my ass, Bobby Lashley. No more I love my sisters, Bobby Lashley. No more hype, Leo Rush hype man. Oh wait, that's still look at my ass, Bobby Lashley. No more of
I actually
ridiculous
liked
Bobby Lashley. This is Bobby Lashley that is come to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of gum.
and I agree with that, even though I enjoyed Leo Rush's Bobby Lashley's hype man. I did actually.
I was going to
enjoy
say
it.
that one wasn't bad because at least he was still wrecking shop when he was doing that.
He was wrecking shop, but the focus wasn't on Lashley. It was on Leo Rush being on the mic, not shutting the hell up. It was more about Leo Rush than it was Bobby Lashley. And that was the fault of that feud, or not feud, that angle. This one, MVP is Bobby Lashley's Paul Heyman. It's MVP putting over Bobby Lashley, not MVP taking the spotlight and making it about him going Lashley, 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 Lashley.
And I actually think that MVP is doing a better job than Paul Heyman right now. That's how much I love what they're doing with the Hurt Business.
And even with Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander completely destroying Lucha House Party in that mixed tag match. That was even great. I'm like, and they even are on the same page. They're stopping the dissension between the two. The Hurt Business is such a dominant force right now, and it is awesome. I love every second of it. The fact that they're pretty much winning all the titles that were on the Raw brand is just amazing. It's pure dominance. I love it.
Yeah, that is like the final prophecy. Like this is how you get the Hurt Business to be the final bosses. Okay, you're gonna have Cedric Alexander. Here's how you know that the Hurt Business is great. They made Shelton Benjamin relevant again.
Yeah, it made Shelton Benjamin. It made you forget the fact that Cedric Alexander was dressed up as a janitor and still lost a match with Drew McIntyre. Wow, Drew McIntyre and was it Dolph Ziggler?
Dolph Ziggler, yeah. And you made Shelton Benjamin relevant for the first time since
he came back. Yeah.
What was
it? Relevant the first time since he came back. They made him relevant, not just a guy who was friends with Brock Lesnar that they built. That they kept
and it's
about.
not even since he came back. He was. What was that gimmick? His mom, his grandma,
his mom. Oh my God! You're bringing up the Shelton Benjamin's mom gimmick.
Wow, yeah. I haven't thought about that in like a decade.
That was the last time That was the last time he was relevant in a WWE ring.
And he wasn't. It's not even a relevant storyline. That's the worst part. You think he's relevant? No, that was a joke gimmick. That was Santino Marella level gimmick, comedy gimmick. Oh Lord, that's not even
that was
relevant.
The last time he had that was substantial at all until the Hurt Business.
The last time Shelton Benjamin had any form of actual relevance is when he was teamed with Charlie Haas. Team Angle.
World's greatest tag team.
All that aside, I've got
maybe his
one.
Match with Shawn Michaels.
I've got one other Scholars Quick Talk before we head on out for the evening. Who, in your estimation, given everything we've spoken about tonight, Scholars Quick Talk question is: who goes into WrestleMania as the WWE champion in your view?
WWE Universal Champion?
No, WWE champion.
Bobby Lashley.
I'd say Bobby Lashley.
Okay, Bobby Lashley goes. Okay,
they're bringing fans back for WrestleMania. They want to have that Drew McIntyre winning in front of fans.
Okay,
which is also kind of a shame because as much as I would love to see Drew re-win the WWE Championship in front of a WrestleMania crowd, I don't want Bobby Lashley to lose the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. I want him to continue dominance.
It's a good problem to have.
Maybe it's obviously not going to be his last title reign or his only title. He's going to win it again. which honestly, at that point, maybe even have the match that he's wanted for a long time, him versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. That's a good SummerSlam match.
Yeah.
There you
I'm like,
go.
it's a good problem to have when you've got two worthy champions in a WrestleMania title match.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often that we have that these days.
I enjoy watching Bobby Lashley. Then, okay, we've talked about how much we are loving the Roman Reigns character of the tribal chief, head of the table. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy Bobby Lashley more.
I'm
You
gonna
know
be
what? I can see that.
I can be completely honest with Roman Reigns right now. The him coming out after every match and performing the beatdown, it's getting old.
I am actually agree. Like even just the opening segment on this episode of SmackDown, it's just like okay, we get it. We get the whole tribal chief thing. Where I just feel like now it's just completely shitting on the rest of the brand. Of
Yeah,
him
I'm like
being
I'm waiting for that. It's WrestleMania time, so like they can get a little bit more TV 13 rated or whatever. I'm just waiting for someone like Edge to come out and call him what he is. What he is right now is a little punk bitch. Okay,
I'm kind of reaching my end of him being. It's I like the character. It's still working for him, but now it's coming back. It's slowly turning back to the big dog, the unstoppable man who has the infinite star. Where
yeah.
he's just based. It's now just. It's Triple H 2003. That's
Yeah,
how
it's like
I wish that didn't make sense.
I'm not gonna go back to saying he's the big dog because he's.
I'm not saying
But
he's the big dog, but he's getting that level of where he's just shitting all over the rest of the roster where it's to the point where who could they book to
Yeah,
give
I'm. My thing is okay. Give him a clean win. Give him a legit clean win. Every title defense he's had, even with Jey Uso, there's been some bullshit involved.
like
Okay,
I'm
give
also
him a clean victory.
I'm not a fan of like how they did that opening segment where they took Daniel Bryan out where they took him out so easily. It just felt like okay, if this is supposed to be your guy for your champ or your temporary championship feud for Fastlane, at least. Well, I also didn't watch the ending of SmackDown. I obviously most likely Daniel Bryan won.
Same thing. No,
Or
it's a
beat
double
down.
count out, but they did a double count out, and then Daniel Bryan was beating up on Jey Uso, and then Roman Reigns came out to do Roman Reigns. So it ended up Daniel Bryan laid out on the mat, and I'm like, I I get it. It's what is it? 3 weeks till the pay per view.
I think
Yes,
so.
3 weeks.
3 weeks till Fastlane. Daniel Bryan isn't gonna get one over on Roman Reigns until the Friday, the go home show. That's how this works. This is how it's worked since the beginning of the Tribal Chief. We're gonna get some more bullshit next week, and then Daniel Bryan's gonna get one over on him on a go home show before he gets annihilated at Fastlane.
It's
But
now reaching that point where it's just like if you compare Drew McIntyre's title reign to if you compare Drew McIntyre as the top face and Roman Reigns as the top guy, not particularly face or heel, just top people. At least like with Drew, he shows vulnerability. He shows moments where he gets out. People do outsmart him. I mean, look what they did with Randy Orton. Look what they've done with Sheamus. Look what they've done with Miz. They show that he is human. With Roman, I think other than him getting one stunner by Kevin Owens, which is just, and him getting attacked by Edge at the end of his match at Elimination Chamber, you don't really see any vulnerability. And I think at first, like it's good to show like a strong heel, but it's also to the point where it's now becoming too repetitive to the point where it's actually kind of losing interest in me.
And honestly, you're not even showcasing him as a strong heel because he's not getting clean wins.
Yeah, I have this weird suspicion that that is going to be changing in the near future. They've got too much invested in Roman Reigns that I think too much is going well, that they recognize the need to freshen up something and just really maintain that spirit of menace. So I absolutely see what you're both saying.
It's like he's got to win clean over Daniel Bryan. And quite honestly, if you want this to work, he's got to win over Edge clean. Clean. No bullshit. If you want it to work. If you want this tribal chief thing to work, okay, he's got to start getting clean wins. Okay, I realize using your family or whatever is part of the gimmick. Okay, but when push comes to shove, you gotta show that you don't need help in order to win, and that's the problem. Throughout that Kevin Owens feud, he never won clean. Not one time. There was always bullshit involved.
It's now at this point where the WWE Championship title picture is actually more interesting, and you have Miz as WWE Champion. Even though he's the least important thing going on. It's still just like you have Bobby Lashley, you have Drew McIntyre. Those two are just so much fun to watch for me. And then you have basically Roman Reigns on SmackDown, pretty much to the point where the title, like his opponents it doesn't feel like it's, I guess to say equal ground. It seems like, I'm trying to find the right words to say, but it just doesn't feel like, it just feels like it's a feud for Roman.
It never feels like the challenger has a chance.
Yeah, and it's at that point where it's getting too repetitive and it's just getting stale for me.
I see that. But then again, now we're getting into WrestleMania predictions time, so who knows what can happen. Any number of things can happen in between now and then. So all that being said, you've already heard from all of us regarding what we think, what we thought of Elimination Chamber and how we all got here, what's coming next. Now is the time of the show where we turn it over to you, our listening audience. What do you think of Elimination Chamber? What's going to happen next? What's the fallout? Whatever you think, we want to hear from you. So drop us a line all across the internet. YouTube comments, Facebook posts, our brand new Scholars of Wrestling Fantasy League. You can join us on there on Facebook. Look us up. And of course, if you want to join in the conversation yourself, join the conversation all across Twitter, starting at Scholars OW for all the latest episode uploads. It's our main account. And you can join us on our personal accounts and join the conversation that way. Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at the Avataric.
Scholar Brian, where can they reach you?
You can reach me enjoying the fact that they finally confirmed Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can catch your current reigning and defending Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion at I'm Robbie Rage. Join the conversation. It's always a good time, and there's plenty of great wrestling on the horizon. But you already knew that we were going to say that because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all next week for AEW Revolution.
Huzzah!